Welcome to SportsLit. I'm Neil Acharya.
And I am Nathan Sager.
In the sport of kings, Eurico Rosa da Silva was far from the castle. He was actually living in a mental dungeon. His ascent from rural Brazil to becoming a champion jockey was fueled by talent and confidence, but it masked anxiety that he eventually learned to attribute to his distant and callous father. In Riding for Freedom, Da Silva, now 45, discusses in detail his rise, which took him from his birth country to Macau and then to Canada, where he won the Queen's Plate, back-to-back, Canada's oldest and most prestigious thoroughbred horse race. That was back in 2009 and 2010. What makes it more remarkable is that when he first moved to Toronto, he lived with family in Scarborough, and he took the bus and several transfers to get to Woodbine to find the gig. A true skilled immigrant tale. But decadence also makes way for the depraved, and more importantly, the underlying reasons that fueled it. Da Silva discusses sex compulsion, gambling, infidelity, and what appears to be purely obsessional OCD, and how it took a hold inside of him. A man from the outside who appeared to have beaten the odds, and it wouldn't let go. Through professional help, today Da Silva, who lives northwest of Toronto in Campbellville, Ontario, appears to have found a measure of peace with his second wife and daughter. Nate has more on the six-time Canadian Jockey of the Year who won the distinction 4 years in a row from 2015 to 2018 when he retired.
Yeah, he was still winning in his 40s and decides to hang it up. Athletes don't do that. I can't think of any example in the team sports. There's that one quarterback, and of course I mean Henry Burris when he led the Ottawa Red Blacks to the 2016 Grey Cup at age 41. Can't think of anything else. No one else. This was a strong hunch play for us, since Eurico Rosa da Silva is our first guest with a self-published book, and our first from the world of horse racing, which is admittedly very much on the fringe of our sporting consciousness. We did have a basic name recognition since it was just over a year ago that he, hung it up at age 44, and it stood out since, he was still at the top of his game. Just 3 months earlier, he had brought El Tormenta, a 44-1 long shot, home to win the Woodbine Mile, which is a big early fall race on the Canadian thoroughbred circuit. And you mentioned the back-to-back Queen's Plates wins. He's only one of 4 jockeys in the last half century who has gone back-to-back riding winners in Canada's biggest thoroughbred race. Now, I'm not sure whether Da Silva and collaborator Bruce McDougall even actually mentioned that in Riding for Freedom. As they focus more on Da Silva's, journey out of rural Brazil to where he is today, and his, all the things he had to fight through inside of himself before he became a, someone who's settled into this second career as a, mental coach who works with high performance athletes. He had early childhood traumas, and feeling like he wasn't worthy of being loved, and that sort of fed into risky behaviors and self-sabotage and guilt that he had to work out in therapy. And it is, refreshing to see him, graduate from that to helping other high-performance athletes. I did pore over his site, mindcoaching.ca, and there was a lot of useful stuff about containing your negative emotions and regulating yourself. You can't stop that. I mean, you can only hope to contain it.
Have you been reading Khalil Gibran again?
No, that's from Hootie and the Blowfish, Neil. Something else that stuck out in promoting this book is he's really said it was about learning to be his own best friend, BFFs with the real me. That sort of hits home at a time such as this when, for the last 12 months, all the circumstances with the coronavirus have given us all a lot more solo time. Right after that, I think I stumbled on to reading how brain doctors are affirming that, our most important conversations, need to be with ourselves. And I can't resist thinking of a BoJack Horseman episode where basically all the dialogue is in BoJack's head and he's just berating himself as a piece of shit over and over.
You can never resist BoJack Horseman. I have a big bag of shh with your name on it if you keep going with that.
Yes, true. Thanks. You're reining me in there. Literally. Going to the whip. Another universal seeming truth I heard come out of Eurico was how he bonded with horses when he was young because there was no judgment from them. And children, especially in the early childhood stage, sort of need to be feel as they're being accepted, not judged for anything, or else that's where all the neuroses show up in adulthood. I relate to that as much as on another day I would laugh when a certain anthropomorphic cartoon horse, voiced by Toronto native Will Arnett, says, "I spend a lot of time with the real me, and believe me, nobody's going to love that guy." So there's a lot to draw out here, a lot of grass to mow, and hopefully this interview will be out of the gate quickly, get into a full gallop, and break to the inside, and offer some pro tips about how to stay on the right track. Do you get it? Because horses run on tracks, and our guests rode horses. And De Silva's book has a lot of human conditioning. Do you get it? Do you get these metaphors about the track?
There's a whole page of this in the Google Doc, Nate.
Okay, point taken. The big ups to Eurico Rosa da Silva for joining us on SportsLit. And again, check our catalog at sportslit.ca and wherever you find your podcasts. And check out our Talk About SportsLit podcast Facebook group. Lots of written content up there on the regular. I won't say well written because I've written it, because I wrote it. But here we are, Eurico Rosa da Silva and Riding for Freedom, Neil.
Yes, exactly. And just before we have him, I want to reiterate what you just said. Yeah, go to our website and also check out Nate's Segways, which will be on the website soon as well. Select ones of those. And yeah, you can buy any of these books at sportslit.ca, including this one, which we're going to talk about, Riding for Freedom with Eurico Rosa da Silva. He's up next. Welcome back to Sports Lit, Nate. We are very happy to have Eurico Rosa da Silva. And Eurico, sorry, I've got to make sure I'm pronouncing it right. Do I have it?
Yes, Eurico. Yes.
Eurico, okay, good. Yes. So Eurico, I want to ask you, this was a self-published book. And I wanted to ask you, what made you want to go that route to get the story out? Because if you have it in your hand, it looks just like a book from the bookstore. You wouldn't know the difference. I want to know how you decided to go the self-publishing route.
Well, I talked with Bruce, who wrote the book for me, and we trying to reach some publishing, and the process will take a long time. Okay, and I told him. And he said, Eurico, he mentored me on this, and he said, I think it's the best way we should publish the book. I think the book is a really good book, and better. I think is the best way is you self-publish the book, and I took his advice, and that's what I did.
Great. Now, how did you and Bruce connect to work together on this?
I was working with a friend on my speech. She's Suzanne, her name. She helped me to write my speech, and I told her that I was looking for a writer because I met some writer before, but they want more focus on winning races. Because I want so many races. They said, I think it's the best way for you to do this book, Rick, not talking much about the personal life, but, you have so many victories, and I didn't want to go to that direction. I said, no, I want to, my intention is to write, is not about talking about my success. I want to talk my failures, because I feel, like you read my book, I feel many times,
yeah.
I was able to stand up on my leg and get my life right. And I want to inspire people to open up about this thing, Sometimes we feel ashamed, such a small little thing, but turn to be so important to us, and we hold inside ourselves. And then going back for your question, and I asked Suzanne if she knew anyone. She said, oh, I know a friend called Bruce. Maybe she'll be able to help you. When I met Bruce and we spoke for 30 seconds, I knew he's the guy to do my book. Like, I just have that feeling. And, he's wonderful. Oh, my God, he did such a great job, and it was a great experience.
There was a lot of detail in this book that you must have, he got from you or just from research, especially when he's describing places in Brazil and the going to different areas, different places, going to Macau. Was that all from detail that you told him about, or did he do any traveling for it, or how did that part come about in the book?
I'll be honest. When I I was thinking about the book. I said, you know what? I want the right to go to Brazil, go to my town to see. You know, is to see the poverty and have a feeling of the place, but it was not possible to do, and especially with this virus,
Right.
you know, and Bruce went there. He did the research. You know, I say the place here, this place, how it was, but all the small little details, he went there and did the research. Like, he's such an amazing guy for that.
Am I pronouncing it? Is it the Hippodrome in Sao Paulo where you first started? Go ahead.
No. I start in my town.
Yeah.
Racing my town.
Right.
In Buri. Buri.
Right. And then you went to Sao Paulo.
Then I moved to Itapeteninga.
Oh, okay.
You know.
Right.
Another town is bigger than my town. My town is very small, only 20,000 people.
Right. So
and Itapeteninga is bigger.
And then
right? There where.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
There where I met Zeli Medeiros, who trained me to become a professional jockey.
And at what point did you get to Sao Paulo?
I got to Sao Paulo. I left home. I was around 13 years old.
Right.
And I got to Sao Paulo. I was almost 16. You know, I was close to be 16.
It was in that
years old.
It was that part in Sao Paulo where I really. What Bruce may have done really impressed me, because he's talking about walking into, and I think it's called the Hippodrome, right? The
Hippodrome. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I might be pronouncing it wrong.
Yes. No, the racetrack.
Right.
Yes,
And
the racetrack in São Paulo is beautiful. Used to be like a paradise, that place, you know.
Right. And
yeah.
Bruce describes that in excellent detail. So I could really sense that. You know, he had talked to someone and done his research. But I wanted to ask you, you know, I think the average person, like we said before when we talked before recording, the average sports fan who maybe just watches the Kentucky Derby, they always hear about the horse, you know, Secretariat, you know, that type of thing in Canada. You know, you may know about Northern Dancer. But I want to ask you from the jockey perspective, how competitive is it to become a jockey, as you explain in the book, from that young age in the small town and then going to the bigger city and competing against fellow jockeys? How competitive is it to become a jockey?
It's very competitive. It's very, very competitive business. Just like when I went to school, I have around like 70 kids did the test in the school. We got like 6. I believe today is the only one carry on, you know, to do good and continue riding was me. You know, most of them rode for 2-3 years. They stopped because of the weight, or they could not do well enough, and they stopped. You know, I think have one other was one of the kids that started with me. I think he rode about 10 years, then he stopped also. It's a very competitive business. Even here in Canada, it's like how many riders I saw start here, you know,
right.
And they stop. They just don't go on. You know, when you start this business, you have to put your soul in them. Like,
right.
It's very, very competitive. And waiting for the chance. You know, prepare yourself, wait for the chance to ride a good horses, and then when that chance comes, you just grab with 2 hands.
How does it start, as you know, with the role of an apprentice? So people may not know how far back it goes. They might just see the jockey like Sandy Hawley or yourself. But explain how it works for becoming an apprentice all the way up.
It's a lot of work. Usually they start when, especially like in Brazil, is a lot of South America country. Even here, we start riding like when we are 10 years old, you know, 9, 10 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You know, very seldom you see one start when 15, 16. But to take a lot of training for you to ride, you know. and the mental part too, because you have to keep your weight down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not only like, I'm a good rider, but you have to have the weight, you have to have everything.
What is the role of the apprentice? What do you have to do when you're a young apprentice? How does it help you know the sport, know the horse, know how to ride it?
Well, when you are a apprentice, you already practice for at least 3 or 4 years riding before that.
Right.
Okay. You know how to ride a horse. Now is when you as apprentice, you have the advantage because you start with, like in Canada, you start with 10 pounds less. Like your horse instead of carry 1.4, is going to carry only 114. Because it has to be fair, right? And I think they ride 4 or 5 races like no whip for the first time.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And they have that advantage of the weight because they don't have the experience of like a journeyman that is a professional jockey, and then after I think they win 4 or 5, they only going to last 5 pounds. But 5 pounds is a lot. If you are a good apprentice, you can take a lot of advantage about that.
Right. I want to, before Nate asks you a couple questions about the mental side of things, I want to ask you about how you had to hide your asthma. We're talking about how competitive it was to become a jockey. You had to hide a pretty strong ailment that affected you and might still affect you. Could you go through that story again of the doctor suggesting you may have a cold or whatever, and you hiding your asthma?
Yeah, well, it's very tough for me because when I went to São Paulo, the pollution there, it's a big town, right? And plus the stress that I have, my asthma always bother me. And it's like when I ride a race, sometimes I need to hide that I'm suffocated, right? Mm-hmm. And then I need to run to my locker, put the spray under my shirt, go to the bathroom, and oh my God, I'm here. And then I use the spray, the asthma spray,
right?
To feel better, right? Mm-hmm. And then how many times I hide this for how many times? How many years? I was there for 8 years. I was hiding for 8 years.
And when you were younger, you couldn't even get the medication, right? You had to just do without.
When I was young, my friend, I suffered from this freaking asthma. Right. How many times, like my grandfather carry me on his back and take me to the hospital. We're poor, right? Mm-hmm. And then I start working. I work like a horse to buy medication. Mm-hmm. I used to do very humble work. I collect cans and bottle in the street. I shine shoes in the street. Mm-hmm. I'm 7, 8 years old doing that.
Yeah, wow.
And one thing that I really got out of reading about training to be a jockey, like what kind of like physical strength does it take to be someone who weighs about 115 pounds, but earns the trust and controls the movement of a 1,200 pound horse?
You have to be very strong. Your legs have to be very strong. Our sport is a sport that you use your entire body. Okay, you use every muscle on your body. Just for you to understand, when in the beginning of the season we have a break of 4 months here. Okay, 3.5 months, and I usually take 1 month break. When I was the last 5 years, I was taking the break. I was not riding the winter. And then I go riding Taekwondo. And I do weights, and I train Taekwondo 4 days a week. And when I go back to ride, just gallop in the morning, my body's so sore everywhere. That's how much you have to be very, very strong.
Yeah. And now on the mental strength side, something I was once told by a very person who knows a lot about this, basketball coach named Dave Smart, was he says sometimes your strength can be your weakness. In terms of your the mental game, what does your story say about that? I mean, you wanted to win every race, but as the book details, a lot of the times there was anger and compulsion that was kind of at the root of that.
I have to use martial arts, okay, to channel my anger. And also, when you are there as a sportsman and a competitor I was, the winning has to be out of my mind. Because winning, if you think about winning, creates a lot of expectation, okay? When I was riding and I was training my mental work, all I did was focus just on the component that was in my control. I have a way that I every race I have the records where I have to be focused on. That's what I used to hold my focus on the racing days. So,
right.
I'm doing this and everything go good. That's what is going to help me to win. But not dreaming about winning or think about winning or celebrating. No, I was just focused on the moment and focusing whip the horse in the right time, push the horse in the right time, give a chance for the horse to breathe. Don't be smart enough to not get in the box. Because it's very easy for you to get boxed in the race, right?
Right.
And all this kind of thing, and take all the trainers, take another job from your mind, just block everything.
And go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you, when you first made your big move to Macau, and I think that was 1998. And you correct me if I'm wrong. How did you end up going there instead of the U.S. like you wanted to, and how did that help you become a better rider, if at all, going to Macau?
My intention was to go to New York or Kentucky, but more New York. I tried to get the visa for the United States, but Brazil is a third country, right? And it's very hard to get the visa. And I could go, take a visa just to visit the United States. I didn't want to take that risk, And I could not get my visa. And in the meantime, when I was trying to get the visa, I have this very famous jockey in Brazil, and was a good friend of mine called Albenzio Barroso. He was in Macau, riding Macau. And Macau, the money is really good, the purse money is very good.
Right.
And the race is very famous there, very popular. Not famous, sorry, very popular. Race is very popular in Macau. And he said, Eurico, go to Macau, okay, get the experience, and then you go to United States, And I said, okay. But he never dreamed that I have a lot of problems with sex addiction, gambling,
Right.
And the place was good for me to make money, but, there is all casino,
Yes.
nightclubs,
Yeah.
people partying all the time. And that was not a good place for me, my friend.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to ask you about, because you
Yeah, that didn't help me at all.
And a lot of those good places to make money turns out to be good places to spend money. Sorry, Neil.
No, that's cool.
Exactly.
I was going to ask you, sorry about that, Nate. I was going to ask you, so in Macau, as a rider, as a racer, as a jockey, how did that help things, or how did that affect you? But also, I mean, there's a part in the book where you talk about these thoughts come roaring back into your head, the gambling and the sex. So I'd like you to kind of explain on two fronts how Macau affected you strictly as a jockey and helped your career or maybe hindered it, and then how it affected you, how your mental health was affected by being in Macau.
Was most of the time in Macau, was not a happy place for me. First because it's an island that when horse land there is their end. that didn't went well in my heart. Okay.
Oh yes, you talked about that.
Yeah. Second, I what happened is how to say, with my language. My English was like I was just learning, right? It's very frustrating sometimes when you want to speak it up and you can't speak it up,
Right.
you know. But the good part is I rode with a lot of Australian jockeys. I rode with some really good Australian jockey from New Zealand, jock from Africa, and all different styles, you know, they all ride a little bit different, okay? And that was the good part, really helped me out, from jockey, great jock from France, from Germany, from Europe, all over Europe.
Right.
And that's what really, really helped me out, because I started looking at them. Okay, that time I didn't work on my mental, but I hired a very good personal trainer to train me in the gym. You know, he used to train me, and I used to see how they ride. You know, I'm trying to combine the way I ride and change a little bit the way they ride. You know, and
Right.
I was a good learning, always a good learning. You know, as much was tough, but it was a great learning.
Right. So yeah, and then yeah, obviously, in terms of it was kind of a playground for the things you probably wanted to get away from when you left Brazil too, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And now when I left Brazil, I'll be honest with you, I said, oh, you know, all this feeling, this emptiness is going away from me, you know?
Right.
And, you know, never went. I met my first wife, you know, things got much, much better. You know, I learned a lot, you know, the way really their family, Chinese family, they are very united.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was really good for me to see that, you know.
Right.
They can argue all week, but end of the week they all go for lunch together, you know.
Right.
And it's nice to see that, you know, like
Yeah.
a very united family.
Right, because I mean it wasn't exactly the same with you when you grew up, right? So it was
I grew up in completely different, you know, different environment, right?
Right.
So what's the next step that leads you to leave Macau and come to Toronto in the early 2000s?
Yes, it was. I came here. I came to visit. It was 2002. I came just to visit Toronto. Okay, and I didn't know nothing about the racetrack. My goodness, when I went to the racetrack, man, and I saw the racetrack, and I said, "Oh, this is the place I want to be." Like, no question. I was trying to go to New York again, right? I was trying. It was in my mind just to go to New York, to ride in New York after Macau, because it was much easier for me to get a visa. You know, once I was in Macau and I have experience, I already speaking English, it was much, much easier for me to get a visa to go to New York. But when I came here and I saw the racetrack, I said, oh, I don't want to go to New York. I want to be here. And beautiful horses, great purse money. The track is amazing. Our turf track, my goodness, is so beautiful. And I said, this is the place I want to be, and I started dreaming about, and I came here in 2004.
That's when I moved to Toronto in 2004 as well, and what I thought of actually, and I think it's probably the best part of the book, at least the part that resonated most with me, is when you come to Toronto, just feeling it out, and you go to Scarborough and you stay with a family, some family, and you take the TTC to Woodbine, and I in my head know that path from Scarborough to Woodbine is probably one of the longest journeys you're going to take on the TTC, and you're talking about multiple transfers, and I just pictured, a lot of times when I'm on the TTC, I always, because people like to knock the TTC, and I'm like, you never know who's beside you. So there's a world champion jockey on the Red Rocket going to Woodbine. So before I ask you a little bit more about coming here and Woodbine itself. Yeah, explain that first time trying to just get to Woodbine and get to be heard from and show people who you are.
When I came here, like, let's go back to the TTC, you know, I could easily take a cab and go to the racetrack, but I didn't want to. I want to see the culture. I want to learn about the people. I said, you know, I'm going to take the TTC, and I'm so glad I did, because what a great experience it was, you know. I'll be honest with you. I love taking the TTC anyway. And, you know, when I arrived here, it was tough. It is very competitive place. It's not easy to break in. Not easy to break in. And I remember inside the jocks room, I was complaining that maybe that time I just won about 10 races. And the guy said, another jock said to me, "Oh, Eurico, are you thinking you're going to win more than 20 here the first year?" I said, "I will." I said to him, "I will carry my license away if I don't win. I don't win at least 40." And I end up winning 49, right?
Wow.
Yeah. No, it's a very competitive place.
But yeah, so you come here, and I wanted to, I mean, I've been saying that I wanted to ask. I am asking you in the sense that Canada is, you know, Brazil's a warm country. Macau's probably pretty warm, but then Canada's cold. So how does that affect? And in fact, I noticed that you set the Woodbine track win record in December in 2018. But what are the unique challenges that come with racing in a cold weather climate?
I love Canada. I think because I love Canada so much, I'll be honest with you, the winter never bothered me since I've been here. Until now. Until now, never, the winter never, I love Canada so much. Guys, it's so easy to live life here. You know, you go take your driver license, it's easy to do. You buy a house, the documents is very easy. You go to the lawyer, everything, go to the bank, you approve, everything's so easy. You go to my country where I live, you go take a freaking driver license there, you see what happens, you know?
Right.
And how long will it take? You're going to do anything. You buy a house there, it's complicated to do the paper. It's complicated to deal with the bank, I'm not even talking about. Here in Canada, it's so easy. We have everything so easy. This country, man, it's so much opportunity, this country. And I'll be honest with you, I'm in love with Canada since the first day I was here.
So just, I mean, being in love with Canada probably made riding the horses that much more fun. But was there anything about the weather that you had to change in the way you rode the horse or you trained with the horse? Is there anything that was different now for the first time in that regard?
I was so enthusiastic to be here that I handled the cold like I was here for all my entire life.
Right.
You know.
Right.
I think was one day that I used the wrong gloves because I put a glove that was too tight in my hands and the circulation in my hands didn't work.
Right.
You know.
Right.
And that day my hand was completely frozen. I remember when I came back with the horse, I asked my valet, I said, please, take care of the horse, take the saddle off. I need to run inside. It was so cold.
Right.
But only one day that I remember, you know. But it was fun. The good part is good question actually you asked me, because when it's cold, you know, as competitive we are, with all the jocks trying to look after each other, you know, because we know it's cold, it's more dangerous if you go down, you know.
Right.
And everybody less arguments, you know, because we're trying to compete, but look after each other, you know.
Yep. I want to switch just back to mental health again, and how did you see societal attitudes towards mental health change over the years? I mean, from the time I believe you were taking some therapy in Sao Paulo, and then you went to Macau, and now you're in Canada. So, I mean, how have you seen the attitudes towards mental health change, and how is the treatment different in each country?
It depends, you know. Now it's pretty much globally. I remember the therapist that I saw in Brazil. He came to study in Canada, actually, for coincidence, you know.
Right.
And I cannot say much about the therapist in Brazil because I really did about 2 weeks there. Was my therapist. I saw him for 2-3 weeks, I remember, and then I moved to Canada. And how people see, the general people see about health, I think it's still a lot of work. I think it's better than 10 years ago.
Yes.
You know, you see much more people now say, "Oh, I have a coach. Oh, I have a psychologist." And you know yourself. It's like 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. Like in my country, I never heard anybody going to the freaking psychologist.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But now it's getting more open. You know, getting a little bit more open. But I think it's still a lot of work to do about that. You know, like where any people like at least think to go for help. You know.
Right. And ultimately, I guess, was it just a diagnosis of maybe like was it primarily obsessive OCD, or was there something that you ultimately found out that you had and that you now work through with, you know, doing martial arts and meditation and walking in the woods and so on? Was there a diagnosis at all, or are you just working?
No, I was not diagnosed with any kind of thing. That's was. I just have what was compulsive behavior.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Right.
You know, and it's funny because I'll be honest with you, is some days I don't even remember I have that.
Oh, that's great. That's great to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you work through that by you do a lot of martial arts. You're a mind coach now, right?
Well, martial arts has really helped me out too, you know. Everything helps, okay? Just for you to guys understand a little bit. When I started in 2006, I really started working, 2007, when I really started working on my mind, I walked to the psychologist, and he asked about my routine, and all I told him was I work. I didn't know how to have a hobby, you know, and as everybody knows, life is not all about working, you know, have a hobby and have fun.
Right.
And Taekwondo is quite, for me, it's the same time I do exercise, but it's also a hobby, you know. I own a Taekwondo school.
Oh, yeah, and that's where?
Yeah. Yeah, and today I own a Taekwondo school. Yeah. Actually, I'm talking with you from my Taekwondo school.
Yeah, where is it?
In Oakville.
Oakville, okay.
In Oakville, yeah. Called Dragon Taekwondo.
Okay. Oh, nice. Eurico, what was the process like? I've heard you say this as you've said it, becoming your own best friend. Where would one get started with that?
Okay, as athletes, okay, when I'm in the jockey room, for example, if I see another jockey with a lot of confidence, I need to switch my instead of pay attention on his image in my head. Okay, I have to switch to my own image. But my mind was so screwed up. Okay, my mind was so screwed up that I could not picture my own image of myself in my mind. What I did was I pictured a butterfly. I pictured a tree. Okay, and until I tried to recover, I worked very hard for so long. Stay, you know, nourish the little kid inside ourselves. You know, I have to nourish him. Slowly, I start building up my image. And then, you know, took some years doing that, and then I could see my own image. And when the image came to my mind, it was a very, very strong image of myself, something that I started loving myself. That's how it was. Now, can you imagine I walk in the street I cannot picture my own freaking image in my mind. You know.
Right. I want to ask you about I know you talked about the book being more than just about horse racing, but I do think it's important to talk about the two biggest wins here in Canada, which is 2009 and 2010. When in 2010 you rode Big Red Mike, and in 2009 I think it was Eye of the Leopard, and you were the first jockey to go back to back and win the Queen's Plate since 1993. So what were you able to do, maybe from a mental perspective, to bring out of the horses on those days? Was there any commonality? Were those horses similar in any way? Did you have to do something similar to both of them, or how did that unfold in your back-to-back win?
Two different horses, two completely different horses. One was the Big Red Mike, was very spontaneous horse, very keen, running the beat, want to go to the lead and get the job done. You know, Eye of Leopard was completely different. He was a little clumsy and lazy. You have to push him the whole way, man. You know, his entire life was like that until the day he retired. Man, you need to ride him. You know, it's completely different horses. And second is a complete different mindset, because the first Queen's Plate that I won with a Big Red Mike is again, you have to fight the expectation in your mind, right? I really want to win the first Queen's Plate, but again, I have to pay attention just on the process, eliminate the think, this is my winning the Queen's Plate, I win the Queen's Plate, everything is going to be different, and all these expectations, you have to block that, okay? Anyway, I prepare myself, taekwondo, visualization, focus on the nature, and we won. Now we're going for the second one. Now I'm riding a really good horse, different horses, and really good horse again, Big Red Mike, right? He was, I think, the third or fourth favor. Different horse, and the Queen was here,
Right.
And was big deal, right? The Queen came here. Now I have to work, since I was training like 30 days before, take off the Queen from your mind, just focus on the tank, right? I remember I did that year to prepare for that Queen's Plate. I hired a yoga teacher, and she was amazing. I was doing taekwondo, and after taekwondo, I do the yoga. And then when I leave the gym, and I was very good and spiritual and not thinking about the race at all, really helped me out. And until when I got the day I got there, don't let any emotion come in. Just, again, do my meditation, do my ritual, and focus on the race. And we got lucky.
Sure did, back to back. I don't know if that's lucky or if that's good. I think that's more good than lucky.
Yeah, good to be lucky, lucky to be good. And how important
No, you need the lucky too. In this business, believe me, luck has to be on your side.
And how important is it to get to that place, especially in a sport where you want to be respectful of the all the risks that the other jockeys and the horses carry when you're all in that tight area and you're all going so fast?
One of the fears that when I was riding, I never have fear of my death. When I go there, I connect with the horse, and that's what I think. But many times I have fear for, oh my God, what about one day, like an accident happened and I kill a rider, because it happened to me that I am in the race and one of my friends died, right? And that is very hurtful. And sometimes that fears can be very strong inside yourself. I don't deny that.
And there's a person in your life who's talked about in the book, Alexandria Tersini. What was her significance to you? What does she represent?
Man, she represents for me, I'll be honest with you, love, compassion, happiness, because in her mind, she lived very simple. She just loved the horses. She loved the races. And that's all she likes, and she enjoys with all her passion. And as much I was competing there, how many times I not having the best day, and she still smile and say, "Oh, Eurico, I love you so much. The winner is coming. The win is coming." It's like she didn't care. She's having fun, and that inspired me. I said, you know what? I have to have fun, and just let the expectation, the competition go. Just have fun, and things will turn around quick.
And
she was a big help in my life, man. Big help.
And of course, you've got your 3 children. Something that struck me, I saw an interview you did with Joe Tilley, and you said one of the great things about animals is they don't pass any judgment on you. How important is it to, have that for children when they're developing, to have that space where they're not feeling like they're being every little movement they do is being watched?
Very important. Very, very important. And it's a connection that the animal, I don't know if they know that, because you're not in your own mind, right? You're not getting the love you think. You don't have the enough love for yourself, okay? And then you see the animal look to you with so much compassion, love, man, is a feeling that really go really deep in your heart.
Yeah, it's awesome. And what can one like you're working with elite athletes, but I went on mindcoaching.ca and I was like, this is stuff I sort of need to put in. And anyone who's seen me knows I'm no athlete. How much can everyday people learn from the lessons you have on your website, Eurico?
Well, what they have to learn, not what the tools I give them. They have to learn themselves. They have to recognize their own strengths inside themselves. Some people learn very quick, and some people learn take a little bit longer. All the tools that I teach them is focus what you can control. Be connected with the nature. I work a lot on meditation, okay, visualization, and really it's all inside them. I'm not a religion person, but it's a very spiritual thing.
Right. Yeah, and it's interesting because religion is a theme at the beginning of this book. It's very interesting, that whole section too of your time in your hometown and how you grew up and how that affected things as you moved on.
It's affecting the way and helped me in another way, because I went more the science way,
Mm-hmm.
I believe a lot in science, tools that is proof that can help, right?
Right.
And have such a great tools like I do. I'm training neuro-linguistic. I already certified coach in neuro-linguistic, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm taking my master's, and they have such a great tools that is really work fast for you, and really what holds people back is guilt and shame.
Right.
And sometimes it takes time for you to bring to the light that guilt or could be a misunderstanding about themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to listen to the person, ask the right question for them to have more understanding about themselves, and being peaceful. The more they are peace with themselves, the more they're going to perform. That is the key.
What does life involve for you now, day to day? I know you talked about the Taekwondo studio in Oakville. What are you up to? What does Eurico Rosa da Silva do to fill up his days right now? Are you busy?
I wake up every day 5 o'clock. The later 5:30.
Wow. I think that's when I go to bed.
Routine.
And so what's the routine?
My routine, I wake up the first thing, I do my meditation, and, I do my ritual that I always did. Continues the same thing. I have I still follow my diet. I like to be like high performance. I feel like if I don't eat good, I don't think good.
Mm-hmm.
I pay a lot of attention on my diet. I try to eat very, very healthy. The first thing, I study a lot. I've been studying a lot. I working on my speech, and then I have clients that I work on. Okay, usually in the morning.
Yeah.
I work in the morning. I take my clients to nature. Not much now because we're doing online.
Yeah.
Okay, I work until like 12 o'clock, between 9 to 12 o'clock. I work with my clients, and then I come to my taekwondo, and I take an hour, 2 hours break. Okay, and then I start working here on my taekwondo until 5 o'clock. Then I go home and play with my kids.
Do you is there any? You retired in 2018, I believe, right, from horse racing?
Yes.
So do you have? Is there any desire to get back into maybe opening up a jockey school, or is there any desire to get back into that area of your life that you were so dominant in for so many years?
Okay, that's what I did. I pretend I'm on the island. I take my boat and I go to the island, and I go there and I put fire on my boat.
Oh.
I cannot go back anymore.
You burned the boats. You burnt the boats.
I burned the boat, my friend.
Viking funeral?
I have to make where I am. Okay, I feel as much as I feel like I did with horse racing. I will continue doing what I'm doing. The business I'm doing. I do with some like really deep stuff. People open up with me, right?
Yes.
And sometimes I'm the first person that they open up. I have to be responsible. I have to prepare myself. If I have I have 1% in my mind that I go back to ride, it's not going to work well in my business.
Yeah.
And I have phone calls, like I work with my clients. Sometimes I just have a phone call that they need to talk to me for 5-10 minutes.
Right.
And I have to be ready.
Yeah, you got to. Got to be all in, and how important was it too when you decided to, call it a day as a jockey that, that it left you to have all that energy to be a father and be a present father.
It's everything for me, my kids is going to grow up, and one day they see me in the box. I don't want they talk about. I believe they're not going to pay attention how much money, how successful I was, but the time that I spend with them. That's what will be in their memory, and I'll make sure because I'll make sure that I build a lot of great memories with my kids. I take the young one. She loves horses. Every Sunday we take her for riding horses. My son William, he loves his sled on the snow. And Emilia loves to play on the water. I'm making sure that we build a lot of great memories for them because it's very important when they grow up. I believe I have to work really hard inside myself, to go and grab that memories. Took me a lot of years to work until I was able to go back now inside myself, look at Eurico when he was 4 or 5 years old, and I see me playing soccer, swimming in the river, and all the memories was not many, and disappear from my head. But I want to make sure I build these strong memories in my kids' mind.
I guess I want to close by just asking you. I think I read in the book that you basically said the horses are a miracle in your life. Is that correct? I mean, does it all come back to the horses?
100%.
So yeah.
100%.
Please just
100%.
share. You know why the horses were and are a miracle in your life, and yeah, we'd love to hear that in your own words.
I tell you why horse is a miracle in my life. Because since I see horse, maybe when I was 4 years old, okay, they bring the best inside myself. You know, they bring me sometimes the joy that I want to cry. There's so much joy when I'm with the horse. Like, I feel like I was a human being. I feel like, you know, I feel myself, okay, who I am. You know, I believe I'm a good person, and the horse, and you know, they see me. They help me to see this good thing inside myself since I'm 4 years old. My entire life, you see how many struggles went through my life. But the moment I was with the horse, my friend, was a good moment.
Well, we appreciate all the time you've given us today and the great moments you've provided on the track and in your book. And I want to just let you tell the audience where they can, because this is a self-published book, where they can get it if they want to buy. And then they can get it on our website. But where else can they get this book?
They can get on Amazon.ca. Just search for Riding for Freedom, and also on Amazon.com.
Well, there you heard it, folks. It was an absolute pleasure to speak with you today, and continued success on the book and in your life.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and all the best for you guys.
You're welcome, Eurico. Thank you.